Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. We just had a tremendous conversation about the 95 billion with a B dollar foreign military aid package, $61 billion to Ukraine, $26 billion to Israel, $8 billion to Taiwan. And when you ramp it all up, it's more than $2 trillion that we're spending on war. Can we afford that? Think about it, everybody. Think about it. Think about it. Go to the last hour of the show so that you can hear Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com, so that you could hear Mike Ferner from Veterans for Peace and from the National Conference of Black Lawyers, attorney Mark Fancher. What a stirring conversation. And what a stirring conversation we're going to have about President Trump. And can he get a fair and impartial jury? Can he have a fair trial? And some of you might say, I don't care. Yeah, but you should. Because really, um, the great Percy Sutton, who you knew so well, attorney Linda Bernard, said, contracts are for the day when you don't get along. And really, if you look at the founding principles of our nation, really, we're supposed to protect the people we don't agree with, the people we don't like. So this really is about principle. It's not about a person. But how does really, arguably at this time, the most famous man in the world, and people love him and they loathe him, how do you impanel an impartial jury? I mean, does really anyone in the world not have an opinion about Donald Trump?
I,
Talk to me.
I,
Help me with that piece.
I,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it
But
would.
no, when we get back, because I want to introduce everybody, because I know we're going to get into it. And the lady you just heard, attorney Linda Bernard, new to this show, but not new to my life. I just absolutely adore her. Brilliant, brilliant lawyer, freedom fighter. She has argued and won 3 cases before the Michigan State Supreme Court. And she was the first African American to get a master's in law from the Ivy League UPenn School of Law. Attorney uh, Anastasi Sanat Mysore, brilliant immigration lawyer, indeed one of the leading lawyers on immigration in the country, president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. My sister beloved, the I mean, there's just so much. I think that, of course, she is the former national president of the National Organization of Women, but she's been a freedom fighter in or out of office. And that's one of the things that we love about Terry O'Neill. She's constantly reminding us that all of our struggles intersect. They all intersect, that we all have skin in each other's game. And I thank you for that, because that was really the hallmark of your tenure as president of the National Organization of Women. And you helped us all grow because of that. One of the brilliant historians of our time. I'm so excited. And we've got Attorney Darrell Jones back, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. I'm so glad that he is back. He and Bailey. Is that Bailey? Is Bailey with us? Hello. Hi, Poochie Poo. And then, of course, all jokes aside, one of the leading advocates for the vote in the United States of America today with little Pooch Bailey. And but let's start with you, Dr. David Gibbs, brilliant historian from the University of Arizona, and you have a book coming out. What is it entitled?
It's called Revolt of the Rich, How the Politics of the 1970s Widened America's Class Divide.
Okay, I think maybe we need to find out what that's about. Just kidding. I can't wait for you to come back and really talk about that.
I like that, yes.
What about Donald Trump? Boy, what a figure for our times. I guess he's emblematic of so much.
Yes.
The question is, he's a lightning rod, right? And so the question becomes, I mean, I've seen the headlines among them from the Washington Post. Half of prospective Trump jurors said they can't be impartial when it comes to Donald Trump. What does it mean? The Trump jury selection, although it's just been completed, now they're looking for alternates. People are saying I can't be impartial when it comes to when you get right down to it. And because of social media, even if people try to feign otherwise, they can't do it because it is no. And then the Trump trial, dozens of jurors, and they have rejected. They started off with 96. They're trying to come up with what, 12 jurors and 6 alternates, maybe. I mean, that's a whole lot of whittling down. David Gibbs. But there are political reasons for this and consequences, I think. So can you take us through this before you go?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can see that there are a number of lawyers on the panel here, so I'll let them deal with the legal issues. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't deal directly with the legal issues. I mean, obviously, it's a major challenge to get an impartial jury in a case like this. I assume, again, the attorneys on the panel can address this more thoroughly. I assume at a technical level, that's a surmountable problem, but there's a larger question as to whether or not this prosecution is a good idea politically or not. And my sense is it's not such a great idea. This is obviously a political trial, and that's very hard to get away from that fact. The charges, to me at least, as a layperson, seem insubstantial. Mostly, it has the impression of being somewhat, frankly, salacious and sensationalist. He had sex with a porn star, so he's a morally dissolute person. Let me say, I think for a variety of reasons, Trump is a morally dissolute person, was a lousy president, a lousy human being. I'll just get that on the table. But, the question is what is the trial really about here? Is it about a violation of the law? Or is it a political effort to stain the reputation of somebody who's running for president for political reasons? It certainly looks like the latter. That's the appearance at a political level. Again, the strictly technical legal issues I'll put aside, but the appearance is one of a politically motivated prosecution in this case. Let's be clear. Alvin Bragg is a registered Democrat. He ran as district attorney as a Democrat, won as a Democrat in one of the most democratic places in the country, Manhattan. Mm-hmm. All right. And so it's very hard to get away from a certain partisanship here. I'm an academic. Everybody I know is a Democrat. Everybody I know hates Donald Trump. And so, I hear it all the time that, we should throw the kitchen sink at Trump legally. We should attack him with whatever we have because the motive is to damage his presidential campaign. The problem is you could look at that as an abuse of the legal system because the motive matters. And if the motive is political, to damage somebody politically because they may win the presidency, that undercuts the legitimacy of the prosecution. Now, let me say that there are multiple charges against Trump, not just the one in New York City. The most serious, in my view, is the one in Georgia in election tampering. Those are serious charges, okay? That's not just sleeping with a porn star. What I regret about this is that this will taint the whole process of prosecution against Trump and will taint the other cases just because it'll give the whole process of prosecution a political look and a look of political motivation, which is not a good look, and will make it more difficult to make the charges stick in the cases where the charges are more serious, as they are in Georgia. So I find this regrettable. I do. The very time Trump ran for president, I thought, speaking personally off the cuff here, I always thought he was a con man, probably deserved to be in prison. And I thought what the Democrats should do is come up with a case against him and put him in prison. What I'm surprised about is how, frankly, reckless and sloppy they've been in doing this, and that they've come up with charges that are serious and charges that are frivolous, and they've thrown both at him. And that's just a very foolish thing to do. This is after 2 impeachments, after efforts to get him off the ballot on, it struck me as, again, legally very thin basis in Colorado and Maine and elsewhere. And so mixing the, frankly, thin with the substantial and serious undercuts the substantial and serious and makes it more difficult to press those cases. And so I find all of this very regrettable. What this case reminds me of more than anything else, in 1998, Bill Clinton was impeached, not removed from office, but impeached by the House of Representatives for sexual acts with a 21-year-old intern who consented to sexual acts. And I remember at the time, my opinion on that, as many people's opinion on that was, this is a politically motivated impeachment that's purely Republican. Basically, what Clinton did was in poor taste, but it was an offense against his wife and his daughter. But other than that, it's a private matter, and it should not be a public issue. The case in New York City reminds me a great deal of the Clinton case. It's very similar. The Democrats complained that this is a frivolous basis on which to impeach a president, and they were right. And here they're doing the same thing against Trump, essentially the same thing. And this doesn't seem like a very good move from my standpoint, and underscores the fact that I think the election of Trump damaged a lot of people's brains. They couldn't think straight. And the extent to which the prosecutions against Trump, it's completely ineffective politically. I mean, again, it's transparently political in terms of motive. But if the motive is political, all this is going to do is drive increased Republican turnout. It'll have no other effect than increasing Republican turnout and increasing the odds he'll be elected president. I really don't know who's going to be elected, and I think it could go either way. But if he is elected, this trial and some of the others, I think particularly the one about classified documents, which to me also seems very insubstantial, it will simply create the image of Trump as a victim and a martyr against a witch hunt, to use his language. And the truth is there'll be a kernel of truth to those claims, and it will increase Republican enthusiasm for Trump. It's already done that. It'll increase it further. So my take is, politically, this is a ill-considered move. And on a political basis, I don't recommend it. And I wish the Democrats hadn't done that. And again, I know technically this is not the Democratic Party doing that. It's the prosecutor's office doing that. But overall, all of these prosecutions look like essentially a concerted effort by partisan Democrats to try and stop Trump from running for president, using the legal system to do so. And again, it's just not a good look. And I don't know why the Democrats can't think about this more clearly.
So what would the remedy be? I mean, because I have to say, there's a fair amount of tit for tat. Everybody's had documents.
That's right.
Okay. Well, Biden tried to give them back. Biden had them. Okay. Stop it. And he had them for decades. Stop it. Just stop it. Trump's using Republican money, the campaign money, to pay for his legal bills. Well, so is Biden. They're paying for his bills. Would you all take that off the table? Even the Letitia, the Attorney General in New York, she's absolutely brilliant. The fact is, he was not found guilty of doing anything in that case. I mean, the bank said, no harm, no foul. We made money. I mean, really, that's what happened, y'all. I mean, y'all can get mad with me if you want. I'm not a Trump apologist. I'm like, if you're going to go after someone, go after them on what is real. What he has absolutely revealed is the Ponzi nature of wealth in America. If you can get in Forbes magazine on the list of the wealthiest, then you can get to the bank and get some money. That's all he's telling you. You don't have to have any. I mean, because let me tell you, if I'm selling my home, I need to put up pictures of white people so I can get the price, get my home priced correctly. It's all a game. And if you want to go after him on policy. God knows there's enough to go after him. Unfortunately, a lot of these, when you deal with policy, when it comes to Israel, they're all kind of drinking from the same trough. I mean, so what's the remedy here? And historically, what will this look like? I mean, you're the historian here. I mean, help me look back and look at where we are now and look ahead.
Okay, the cases I compare with, I already mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to. This is very brief. I want to hear what you have to say because you are the professor in this group. But even today, on television, the guy they call Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, the businessman from New York. I don't remember his name.
McCarthy.
The smooth guy, Mr. Wonderful, as he calls himself. He said that he just returned from Europe. He said he's trying to he's a billionaire, I guess, and he's trying to bring other billions to the United States. And he said the entire talk of the conference and the countries that he went to was all about this trial and about, they're concerned that America is concerned about anything that a porn star would say. And he said if it was murder or something like that, then it would be something worthy of our attention. But the rest of the world, the intelligentsia of the world, the business people of the world, think this is so frivolous and it embarrasses the United States so greatly because it couldn't happen anywhere else. Now we can hear what you were going to say. I'm sorry.
Mr. Wonderful's name is Kevin O'Leary.
That's
Kevin O'Leary.
Thank you.
No problem.
Well, first of all, I agree with everything Linda Bernard said, and overseeing. Particularly, I notice in France, they're mystified that we're so obsessed with sex scandals in this country, often trivial sex scandals. But
Oh my word! That we that we don't care about in hindsight. I mean, I think
I was actually gonna say something like that in support of what Mr. Gibbs was trying to say before he got cut off.
Yeah, hopefully
As
he'll
far
come
as
back.
this case is concerned, it's been litigated in the public opinion. And the public opinion today, 2024, people don't care that he had cheated on his wife. People don't care that he had sex with a porn star. Honestly, they really don't care. The issue that's before the court is not whether he had sex with the porn star, is not whether or not he cheated on his wife. The issue before the court is whether or not he illegally used money from his campaign in order to quiet her, and whether or not that was an appropriate use of his money. And so in this situation, I think back historically, all of the different people who have been brought down by sex scandals. Mr. Gibbs had brought up President Clinton and how he was impeached because
I'm
of
bringing him back on.
Okay. He had brought back the issue of President Clinton and the sex scandal, but he also didn't mention, which I think should be mentioned, is John Edwards. He was running for president. His wife was dying of cancer. He cheated on his wife, had a baby out of wedlock. But had John Edwards run today, none of it would have mattered.
And you know why they went after John Edwards? Because John Edwards was the only candidate at that time who opened up his campaign in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans and was talking about poverty. Nobody cares about that, Anastasia.
But I'm saying John Edwards was going to be the next president had it not been for a sex scandal.
No. Had he not gone after poverty. When Reverend Jackson was going to march on Tallahassee as they were stealing the election in 2000, oh my goodness, they bring up the fact that he has a child out of wedlock. 20 plus years later, she's a graduate of a great school. She's in graduate school. She has gone on about her business, and so has my family. My parents have been married now 60 plus years.
But that's what they try to do when they try to bring someone down. They bring
them down. But why do they bring them down, Anastasia? They don't go after the right-wing oligarchs.
They don't go after the issues. They just go after the non-issues.
No. What I'm saying is, and I'm trying to make another point though. They don't go after the right-wing oligarchs. They don't go after people who protect empire. They go after people who protect you and me. They have made Dr. King's personal life an issue.
Yes,
but they didn't make J. Edgar Hoover's life a personal issue or LBJ's. Because they were protecting empire.
Yeah, I mean, they even brought up your dad's issue for the same reason.
He doesn't have an issue. My father likes women, and
I'm just
no.
I'm saying when they try to undermine the good messages, that's how they try to do it.
I'm hearing you. I'm saying I'm so tired of that.
I know
we're adults here, and I'm simply saying that I'm tired of that. While poverty is surging in America in ways that we have not seen since we had the war on poverty, we got $2 trillion plus that we're spending on war all over the world. And we're talking about this?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I got a problem with that. And I mean, whatever you say about Trump, he said, he's transactional. He said, I don't want to do these wars. I don't know how he arrived at that conclusion, Dr. Gibbs. But he told the Israelis, and he is quite friendly with them. He said, he didn't just say, he said, you need to end this. This is a bad look for you. Whatever you thought you were doing, it has not worked. You're wrecking yourselves in public opinion. You're losing this war. Yeah. So whatever you want to do it and end it and restore peace, because what you got going right now is not working for you. That is not what Biden is saying. Biden is feeding the war machine. And Robert Kennedy is saying the Palestinians are the most pampered people on earth. I've never heard anything more patently absurd in my life.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he said that. Dr. Gibbs is going to have to leave us shortly, but stay right there, Anastasia, because I mean, I'm just tired of hypocrisy, Dr. Gibbs.
I think when I compare this to, just in terms of I'm sorry about the technical problem, but I was going to mention this in terms of the store context. I mentioned this in the show before, but it's worth noting again. Is that there's the comparison obviously with Clinton, but I think another comparison or contrast is with Nixon. And, I'm old enough to remember the impeachment hearings of Richard Nixon. What was striking about that was they were done very carefully. It was led by the Democrats, yes, but it was done with great care and restraint and dignity, sufficiently so that it not only convinced large portions of the Republican Party that Nixon was a crook, but it convinced the public that removing him from office was the right thing to do. And when he was finally driven from office, what actually the final blow was when a delegation of Republicans led by John Rhodes, the Speaker, and Barry Goldwater, the senator, former presidential candidate, met with them and said, "You will be impeached, in essence, you will be impeached, you will be removed from office, and we may vote against you." He was gone the next day. And, that was done on the basis of people genuinely shocked by the charges, which were persuasively presented and credible. And that's how it was done. And it was not something that tore the country apart and was done on a partisan basis. This is completely different. This is a completely partisan character to it. It has no legitimacy among anybody who's not already somebody who hates Trump. And the only effect this will have is to drive increased turnout for the Republicans, to further weaken public confidence in institutions, particularly the courts and the prosecution system. And if Trump loses, I'll be very frank about this, I'm very afraid of violence. And this increases, if there is violence, Trump will certainly bear most of the responsibility for that. But it takes two to tango. And the Democrats are also contributing to an atmosphere that's simply stoking emotions in a very negative way. And you have to contribute to violence. And I think avoiding violence should be a priority for everybody right now. I just don't see this kind of very frivolous use of the legal system for political purposes, which is certainly what this looks like, is helping things at all.
Well, Carrie Lake of Arizona said, "Strap on your Glock for 2024." I mean, these people, this is where they are. Attorney Carrie Lake. I mean, and Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Sinatra. But Attorney Linda Bernard, go for it.
I just want to say, in response to what Anastasia said about
Anastasia.
I'm sorry, Anastasia, about the fact that was a prosecution based on the misuse of resources of campaign funds. That's just not true, because of the fact that the federal government looked at this and they said there was no reason to go forward. The state attorney general did as well in the state of New York. They said no reason to go forward. This is one prosecutor from Manhattan only who decided to do this. This is totally selective prosecution. It has nothing to do with merit, at least in my view as a lawyer. And if you were the defendant and the feds had passed on it and the state had passed on it and the election bureau and everything had passed on it, you would feel the same way. But then back to your initial, what you were saying, Santita, I'm sorry. But I just couldn't let that go by.
Well, no. I mean,
I want to say goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
And I like what you said.
Dr. Gibbs, thank you so much. Dr. David Gibbs, the name of your, we're going to have him talking about his book. It'll be out, I think, in another month or so. I cannot wait for that. But, you can see, boy, Trump can get you amped up. And it's not even him. It's the issues around this. And when I think of the real hurt and pain that Americans are feeling and that people are feeling all over the world, I tell you, it does make me emotional. It really does. But emotion, it doesn't make me a fool. It is my fuel, though. And I'm worried. I'm not saying that you should not prosecute someone when they've committed some malfeasance, when they've broken the law. But I guess for me, and I want to get a brief comment from you, Attorney Linda Bernard, because these are cases that you've litigated for years. Attorney Sinat, Attorney Terry O'Neill, Attorney Daryl Jones. Talk to me. What are we looking at? Because, there is a political side to this, Terry O'Neill and Attorney Jones and Attorney Sinat. And we're seeing it. We're feeling it. And that is one of the things that really does concern me. Can you get an impartial jury in this atmosphere, particularly in an atmosphere that is so politically fraught? Attorney Linda Bernard.
Well, the issue of impartiality is an important legal standard, and it has been for a long time, literally forever, because the duty of a jury is to be like a blank board, a blank whiteboard or blackboard. They're not supposed to have any predispositions to anything. They're only supposed to understand and address the things that are factually presented to them. Now, what's presented to them, however, can be considerably biased depending on the judge. And in this particular case, of course, I think clearly that this judge should have recused himself because of his daughter's financial interest in this and how she's making money every day based on the trial. But be that as it may, setting that aside, the every lawyer, both sides have a right to raise what are known as peremptory challenges. Like I can say to you, Santita Jackson, you're the daughter of Reverend Jesse Jackson, so I know that you're a Democrat and I know your liberal views. So I'm using my challenge not for cause, or I can use it just because I don't like you. I don't like the color of your hair, the color of your eyes. I mean, you can use your challenges for any reason. You don't have to have peremptory challenges. You don't. Then you have challenges for cause, which are based on what you've posted on social media, what you've said, what you've done, the political marches, for example, that you've marched in. There are two different ways you can get rid of jurors, and both of those reasons are generally for, quote, impartiality. The person is impartial. They haven't demonstrated they're impartial on this subject. All these things that they've done in their life to shows that they're not impartial on the subject. So that's the grave man, if you will, of any jury trial, and it's also the most important aspect for the judge. And in this instance, I don't know how this judge is able to keep this case, because I just don't understand it. And the very fact that this week on Wednesday there was, quote, a furlough in the proceedings, which is based on the fact that New York apparently doesn't have the money to continue a 5 days in court, 5-day trial, if you will. So every week there will be a furlough on Wednesday. Of course, while they're paying for all these people that are not Americans to be there, it's just an unbelievable system. We are the laughing stock of the world on this case and in this matter.
Can we have a fair trial here?
You know, he can, and then maybe he can. Do you remember as well as I do when Oliver, whatever his name was, General Oliver, the guy in the basement of the White House with Reagan, shredded all those documents. Yeah, Oliver North, no, but not Oliver. No, yeah, Oliver North. That's right. Shredded all those documents in the basement of the White House, and he was working for Reagan, and they came back, and he was tried in D.C. with an all-black jury. And so the all-black jury came back and said they had all U.S. attorney, all these people there and all that. And the jury said, no, this wasn't Oliver North doing this on his own. He did this because the president told him to. So we acquitted him of all those felonies that he was charged with, which were clearly felonies. So they believed he was down there doing it because the president told him to. So in this case, but I don't mean this to be offensive in any way, but there's a different parameter, a different sort of standard of justice sometimes that you'll find among black jurors, and that is who's really at fault here. They look beyond the superficial case, if you will, and look deeper. We did that with and you see the reaction to when we feel things are unjust, like Rodney King. We go out, we tear up everything because we know it was unjust. That was a jury in that case. Police officers were charged, but they thought the trial was unfair, which went back to the professor's position about violence related to this verdict. If our community, and I think we're just exceptionally, we have an internal Christianity, if you will, religious, whatever religion it is, sense of justice. When we feel that it's unjust, then we take it to the streets. It's just that simple. And in this instance, if what we saw the other day in Harlem is true, although now most of Harlem, I guess, is white, when they were going, 4 more years, Trump, outside the bodega where Bragg had charged the man with murder, and attempted murder, in his own shop when the guy came through the door with a gun on him and he killed the guy. And Bragg charged that man in his own business, an 80-year-old man, for that. I mean, when we feel things are unjust, we act on it, and it's not about white or black. It's just our own internal sense of and core related to the justice system. So it depends on who's on the jury. And I mean, he might have done better had they had more diversity in the jury pool, just like Oliver North did in D.C.
So, in other words, what you're telling me, as I pivot to you, Attorney Terry O'Neill, because you look like you're about to jump through the screen, um, we just don't know.
We don't know.
Attorney Terry O'Neill. Okay, you can jump through the screen now.
No. I'm loving listening to all of this. I really am. I think it's there's a lot here that I agree with. But what I keep thinking about, if I had been called up to jury duty in this case, I would be afraid of being killed if I voted to convict. I definitely would be afraid, especially if I voted to convict and the whole jury convicted him. Then I would be very afraid that I would be killed.
So you agree with the juror who said, "Look, I've been exposed. I am out of here."
Absolutely. Look at what Trump did to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, right? Look what Trump did to
The black women in Florida who were
in Georgia, the ones, election workers. These were election workers. And they had to move constantly because they were constantly being pursued by people telling them they were going to kill them. Look what Trump told his people to do, and they did to the Capitol of the United States of America. Hang Mike Pence, sending people to kill certain elected officials because Trump told them to. So Trump is a man who has done these things. If I had been called to jury duty, I really would be very, very much afraid. I think that.
But let me ask you this: as a lawyer, I mean, how would you say that when you're being interviewed? Would you say, "Look, I'm afraid of this"? I mean, how would you express that? Would you just keep that to yourself? I mean, what do you do?
Well, see, that's what's interesting is the juror who got herself off the case after she said, "I've been exposed, and now I don't think I can be impartial." And what I heard her saying there was, "I have to vote in a way that I think will keep me safe from being killed
in my neighborhood." Also, but I mean, also,
happens, right?
Because everybody's looking at you. I mean, because we've talked
Well,
about.
The point is, people know who she was, and Trump's people from, they could come from anywhere, from Oklahoma, right?
I'm just making this point because we made this point during the election. So we were like, how are these women, these white women in particular, voting for Trump? And you were like, honey, they've got to go home.
Right.
And I was
right. Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, that too. Yeah. So you don't know about that, but I think she once she knew that she had been exposed and that people could identify who she was, that was when she said she couldn't be impartial. Previously, she had said she could be impartial. But once she knew that people could see who she was, she didn't think that she could vote on the facts of the case. She felt like she might have to vote on something else. Like she would be partial. And I read that to mean she was going to have to vote in a way that would try to keep her safe, herself safe. So there's that. That's number one. You talked about, protecting empire. That, I think, is what the American judiciary actually does.
Yeah.
Right? It protects empire. It does not protect criminal defendants. It does not exist to protect criminal defendants. If it did, you would not have so many people. The highest rate of incarceration on the entire globe in the entire recorded history of the world is happening in this country.
Wait a minute. Who effectively become cheap labor.
Correct. Because we are protecting empire with our judicial system.
Yeah.
So and this is why Richard Nixon was never prosecuted for his crimes, because Gerald Ford pardoned him. And what we learned from that is that if you achieve the highest pinnacle of power, of empire power in this country, you will not be held accountable for your misdeeds. This is what Donald Trump meant when he said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and get away with it. And he's absolutely right about that. We pardoned, Richard Nixon got pardoned. The entire country learned that power will not be held accountable. Trump is moving forward on the assumption that he cannot be held accountable because he represents the most powerful aspect of empire in this country.
Well, let me ask you this then, Terry.
Yeah.
Before I go to Daryl and to Anastasia. So do we get angry with him, or do we reform the system?
Well, we reform the system for sure. Reform the system. I mean, look, at some point,
I'm not saying that you don't that you absolve him, when he's out
no,
of order.
not
I'm
at
not, I'm
all.
not saying that.
And look, again, empire protecting itself, but they brought down the notorious gangster. Now I'm blanking on his name with the tax code,
Oh,
right?
Gotti. John
Yeah,
Gotti.
not Gotti, the one from
In
the 1930s.
Chicago. In Chicago.
In Chicago.
The 30s and the 30s. Him.
Al Capone.
Al Capone, yes, right. They brought down Al Capone, who had ordered hits, and he was really a murderer. He was a conspiracy murderer. He was a mafioso, and they brought him down with
you leave that little chubby cheek precious for a while.
I mean, I have a hard time feeling sorry for Al Capone, but on the other hand,
I was just
not a
joking.
man.
My tongue was in my cheek.
I know. But so Al Capone was not a man like Donald Trump. He didn't achieve the highest pinnacles of power. Donald Trump, in my view, is Teflon Don. I mean, he has acted his entire career with a mafioso approach. It's how he came up in Queens and Manhattan in the real estate industry, which is riddled with organized crime. It's what he knows, and so I can't feel sorry for Donald Trump at all if he was to be caught on a quote unquote technicality. Although it's interfering with an election is not exactly a technicality. I believe in democracy. I think interfering with an election is not okay.
Oh,
but,
we agree on that. I guess I'm just asking the general question. Percy Sutton, who's one of the icons of really in America, and had it not been for racism, everybody would know his name. This is former president of the borough of Manhattan, who built one of the biggest Black businesses in the country for about 30 or 40 years. Indeed, WBLS was the number one radio station in the number one market in the country. It was one of the most influential radio stations in history. You got Frankie Crocker, you got Wendy Williams, The Quiet Storm, all of that. And he got Barack Obama into Harvard Law School. He was a Tuskegee Airman. Just on and on and on and on. And when I think about Percy Sutton said something to us, and I had the privilege of knowing him. He said, contracts are for the day that we don't get along. He said, the great thing about America is that you really, technically, actually, are protected from your enemies. And even the person who doesn't like you or doesn't agree with you, you're supposed to be able to step into the courtroom and have a clean slate. You are, Of course, everybody has their biases, Terry O'Neill. And I guess that's what makes it very hard when you have someone like a Donald Trump, who everybody knows. Someone like that, it's like, oh, and then I extend that to someone who's stereotyped like a Black man. Because the Black man is the big, but of course he committed the crime. Of course he did. I'm just wondering about, impartiality in the law. Boy, we have talked a long time today. We have gone back and forth today. Well, you never know where this conversation is going to go. But before I pivot to Daryl Jones and Anastasia Nott, attorney Anastasia Nott, I think, Terry, that's one of the things that's kind of got me, when you walk into a room and people assume all these things about you. Help me, Terry.
It's not. I don't know about the assumptions. I think that Donald Trump has already been known. He has intimidated witnesses. He has intimidated the judge and his family members. He's a scary guy.
Sitting in the courtroom looking at everybody.
And so this is not a case where the poor defendant is going to be prejudged by biased people. This is a case where a dangerous man is looking to take revenge on anyone who does what he doesn't like. And those people in jury box, I think they pretty well know that. And that's why it's so scary for them.
I guess I just feel that way about powerful people, and the more they smile, more the more the hair on the back of my neck stands up. I've just seen too many of some. What did Michael Jackson sing about the smooth criminal?
Mm.
Ooh, I mean, some of the most lethal killers have been the sweetest people I've ever met.
Mm.
Oh, nice. Attorney Daryl Jones. Bless your heart, we just keep squeezing this handsome man in at the end. Not at the end. It's not the end, but And then because my shores to not just jumps on in, but I ain't. There you go.
No, Santita, yeah, and listening to all of the discussion, there are a couple of things and a couple of points that I certainly wanted to lay out. And while I understand much of what was being laid out as to why you don't believe that Trump should be prosecuted in this Manhattan case, just pivot for a second. There was another defendant that just came out of federal prison that the federal government did review and decided there was a crime and went after him and prosecuted him, Michael Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out of the same nucleus of operative facts. So I don't think that you can say it's okay to prosecute Michael Cohen federally, but not to prosecute Donald Trump for the same type of crimes on the state level. So one of the things that I certainly do is I always celebrate Alvin Bragg because I am so happy that the African-American community elected an African-American to serve in this prosecutorial role.
Oh,
And he's taken that role seriously. There's a crime that's been committed in his jurisdiction, and he's not going to let the person leave just because they're part of the empire, as you've laid out. What it appears from the federal prosecution of Cohen is that the empire said, Michael Cohen, you're not worthy of the protection, but the president is worthy of the protection. Bragg is now saying, we're going to level this playing field. No, I'm going after him because you're even federal government. You provided me with the information showing me that the crime was committed. I'm not letting it go. With regards to how that's being prosecuted, I think it's being properly prosecuted in that regard. When we talk about the jury intimidation side of it, I ask people to remember Fonnie Willis. Why do I ask you to remember Fonnie Willis? She came after former President Trump, and he did what? He turned the scenario around, put her on trial, right? So if you are a potential juror, Fonnie Willis is in your mind. And what happened to her? So you see the power of the empire through Donald Trump, and you've got to decide, am I willing to take a seat and be part of this? Am I willing to be disclosed? Am I willing to sit there and place this man in judgment? So I think those are factors that have got to come into this conversation. I don't take the prosecution of anyone lightly. I was a prosecutor. I am a defense attorney. I don't take the prosecution of anyone lightly. Mm-hmm. But I would I'd be lined up to run against Alvin Bragg if I knew that the federal government gave him information saying that this person committed a crime and you decided to turn your back and not prosecute that person. That's not the oath of office that you took. He's standing up for his oath of office.
No, I mean, I hear you. I'm not making the argument because it's not to me. It's not even about our Alvin Bragg or Letitia James or Fonnie Wilson. Fonnie Willis. I mean, I get it. I was really started the conversation talking about the impartiality of a jury. Mm-hmm. I mean, because when people say, why did Fonnie do this? I'm like, she had a job to do. This was in her wheelhouse. She had to do it. Alvin Bragg had a job to do. This was in his wheelhouse. Although with Michael Cohen, I do have some issues with him, but that's a different kind of thing because I'm like, you're someone's lawyer. You're the keeper of the secrets, honey. I don't understand any of that. And, just knowing how power actually works, knowing the game that's being played here. Because there's a big game and you all know it, and it's above my pay grade for sure. That this ain't what it's about. Okay? I mean, this is a man who owns a beauty contest. He can have any woman in the world he wants. That ain't what this is about. And has had everyone he has wanted, and so what's really going on here? But which is why I wouldn't be on the jury, because I'd be like, what's this? And aside from the fact that if you think I'm going to be in the crosshairs of everybody on this, on civil rights, yes. On this, no. But then that's just my own personal experience. Attorney Sanat Soror.
Yes, Aurora. I am here because actually, Attorney O'Neill brought up a very good point on why people are afraid to be on the jury and why they were able to whittle down 200 potential jurors, excuse me, to 12 selected and one alternate today.
Wait a
And
minute,
I think
barely. I mean,
barely. But let me add some additional clarity so that people are understanding. These individuals were grilled not only on their personal history, but their political views, their social media posts, and their not in addition to their ability to remain impartial despite any opinions that they might have about the former president. I think the fact that we are now in a world where people can look you up and what they call dox you, which is to tell all of your personal information, whether or not the judge says all of their names will be sealed. They will only go by jury numbers. The defense attorneys, as well as the prosecutors, still have that information because how else are you going to be able to grill them on their personal history, their political views, their social media posts? I think it is a very dangerous situation for some of these jurors. And I think some of them were smart to be able to say initially, you know what, I just can't be impartial. I think it's interesting. In the past, many attorneys were automatically removed from jurors, but one attorney has made it. The corporate attorney made it. Because the truth is, you can't go on the jury and say, as an attorney, I can't be impartial, right? Because
Yeah.
how would that torpedo someone's career, right? Because that would go out. In this situation, I think it's important for them to realize this is going to be something that will last with them for many years. Even the jurors that were selected for the O.J. Simpson trial over 30 years ago are still being asked questions about why they made the decision that they made. So it's important that people realize that if you're selected for something this global in nature, right? It's going to be important for not only yourself to maintain your integrity, but also to maintain your privacy. And it's going to be very difficult for them to do both, considering how the former president has acted in his behavior and conduct during court, during the selection process. And at any point, he could say something inappropriate. And I believe what Attorney O'Neill is saying. If he says attack, there's some people that are out there that might attack. And you know, at this point in our stage as Americans, we're looking at too many things that we should be worried about other than a civil war. Because I think, quite frankly, we're about to go into a World War III. Iran just attacked Israel.
No,
Israel's
they retaliated.
They what?
They retaliated.
An
Remember,
attack is an attack.
No,
regardless of the choice of words, retaliation or attack.
It's not the choice of words, it's choice of action. No, wait.
But this is the thing. Iran was not hit. Syria was hit.
No.
What I'm saying is, the point that I want to make is that we're about to go into a 7-year war.
No, let me say this. When you hit a consulate or an embassy, that's the sovereign territory of a country. That is what was hit, along with 7 of their top military personnel, one of their top generals. What Israel did was, what Iran did was they retaliated. It's important to say that an attack is not necessarily an attack. Like a kiss ain't just a kiss.
Right.
A smile, a sign.
A smile ain't a smile. A kiss ain't a kiss.
Come on.
Okay,
now.
so
I've got one more minute for you.
Israel is going to retaliate again. But the key thing that people need to remember is that the United States helped to defend Israel in the retaliation from Iran. That means we're in there. We're doing this. This is something that's about to happen. We're about to go into World War III. It's going to last years. And the only thing that seems to be the issue is one political mind and another political mind. It's as if they don't even care about the soldiers on the ground or their families.
They don't care.
They don't even care about the civilians.
This is about gas and oil and beachfront property.
Right. So when we're thinking about this Trump trial, you have to think about this is one political mind that's being able to.
There is some. I will say this as I bring on because and we can continue to talk after
I see Attorney Bernard's got her hand up. She's like, I want to get in this.
Because we're gonna end in like 2.5 minutes, and I'm gonna give that to Attorney Bernard because boy, have we gone at it today. Oh my word, help me.
I've learned so much from listening to everyone, but my brother, what you said about Braggers and also about of Fannie Willis, I can't understand. When a prosecutor, an elected prosecutor, perjures herself openly on the witness stand, then she is disqualified, in my view, from prosecuting. Any prosecutor, and you've been a prosecutor, so you know, if you had perjured yourself in sworn testimony on a witness stand, any lawyer, any law student could get you disqualified from being able to continue to serve as a prosecutor, particularly on that case. But also what you said about Bragg, that is courageous. Literally, I may be paraphrasing incorrectly. I apologize, for him to pursue this matter. I think it's the exact opposite. Bragg has let police. I'm a police commissioner, an elected police commissioner in the city of Detroit. It is unthinkable to allow people to attack a police officer, do a beat down on the police, and you don't prosecute them and you release them without bail. I mean, this guy, he has lost so much credibility, at least in my opinion, in our profession, because these are things you don't do. We as attorneys, we uphold the law. We do not openly break the law and do what he does in terms of letting a bunch of people who are in the commission of a felony, being in the United States of America without a visa is a felony, and they are illegals. And instead of addressing them for the two offenses that they're addressing, one, the felony of entering the country without a visa, and two, beating up a police officer, assaulting police officers, and then bragging about it and going across the country, all because Bragg didn't hold them. Bragg doesn't prosecute the crimes in Manhattan, let alone something that the feds have refused to address.
Well, now hold on a second. We are absolutely going to have to go now, but what I'm going to do is end the broadcast right now. Terry O'Neill has got to go. You're going to have the final word, and then we're going to continue talking just a little bit. I'm going to have to edit this tape. Oh, my word. Terry O'Neill, final word. I know you got to go.
Well, I've loved this conversation. I think it's really remarkable. I do want to say, I believe this case, I do. I think this case is about election interference, right? I'm going to put that out there. Yes, it's got all the salacious, sexy, blah, blah in the background of it. But what the case is actually about is election interference.
The one in New York?
Yeah, Alvin Bragg's case, sure, because Cohen, Cohen didn't have sex with a prostitute or with a porn star. He went to prison for election interference, and now Donald Trump is being prosecuted for election interference with all that sexy stuff in the background. So I don't have a lot of.
I thought he went to jail for faking.
Because he lied to Congress. He lied to Congress. That's why he went to jail.
Cohen.
It's a federal offense. Cohen.
Oh, Cohen. He lied to Congress about the catch and kill program.
No, he lied to Congress repeatedly in before the Senate hearing, House hearing. I'm not sure which one it was, regarding various aspects of the election. You cannot lie. He was stupid. He could have taken the Fifth Amendment, but he didn't.
And he didn't. Well, but to be clear about what Trump
did.
Trump
okay, you all wait a minute. Let Terry O'Neill close out.
Falsifying records because Trump believed, I don't believe, but Trump, just hear me out. Trump believed that if he didn't kill the Stormy Daniels story, it would hurt his election prospects. That was very clear in his texts and in his email correspondence. Okay. And so he committed these acts based on his calculation of what he needed to do for his election
Come on. He's a grown man. He has a bar license. Trump does not. I'm responsible for what I say as a lawyer. I'm the one that took the oath. Trump did not.
But Trump did what he did because of the election. He was incentivized to do what he did and falsify the documents because he wanted to be elected. And that, I think, is really the crux of Alvin Bragg's case against him. I continue to believe that the criminal justice system in this country has become so warped that it does not stand for criminal justice. It really stands for, propping up empire. I think that, prosecuting Donald Trump comes right up against that problem of, hey, we don't exist to prosecute Donald Trump. We exist to prosecute, vulnerable people and marginalized people. So I think there's that. And again, can he get a fair trial in New York? If he were to stop, if the jurors could believe rationally, if it could really be believable that he would not sick death threats on them, then yes, he absolutely could get a fair trial. But as it is, he is a dangerous man who is scary as heck. And so that, I think, is what's making it hard for him to get a fair trial. He's doing it himself, He doesn't want a trial at all, fair or not fair. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to go, and thanks you so much, Santita. I will see you next time. Okay.
And stay right here on the Santita Jackson and Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, because we're going to continue the conversation. In the meantime, I'm letting AM 950 Radio go. Sending you all so much love. Santita Jackson, stay tuned for more of the great progressive talk right on this show and on other shows on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this